The smell hit me first. That unique blend of recycled air, engine grease, and desperation that you only find in the Outer Rim stations. Outpost K94 wasn't exactly a tourist destination, unless your idea of vacation involved dodging smugglers and praying the life support systems held together for another cycle. I nursed my synthetic whiskey at the bar, watching the amber liquid swirl in the scratched glass. 3 years since I'd left the Space Rescue Corps, and I still couldn't shake the habit of sitting with my back to the wall, eyes on every exit. Old habits die hard when they're the only reason you're still breathing. My comm unit buzzed against my wrist. Lena again. "Marcus, did you take your medication today?" Her voice crackled through the cheap speaker, somehow managing to sound both worried and bossy, despite being transmitted across half a solar system. "Yes, Mom," I muttered, though we both knew I was the one playing parent these days. Had been since the Kepler station incident left her with neural degradation syndrome. The medical bills alone could bankrupt a small moon. "I'm serious. Dr. Harlan says consistency is key for managing the symptoms." "I know, kiddo. I took them. How are you feeling today?" There was a pause, the kind that told me more than words ever could. "Better. The new treatment is helping with the tremors." The new treatment that cost more than I made in 6 months hauling cargo through the lawless zones. But I'd figure it out. I always did. "Good. Listen, I've got to go. Got a potential client meeting me here." "Be careful, Marcus, that station has a reputation." I smiled despite myself. My 16-year-old sister, confined to a medical facility on Mars, worrying about me in the rough parts of space. "Always am. Love you." "Love you too." The connection died, leaving me alone with the bar's ambient noise. Conversations in a dozen languages, the hiss of atmosphere processors, the occasional crash of breaking glass followed by raucous laughter. Just another night on K94. That's when she walked in. Even in a place that saw every species and subspecies humanity had encountered in its expansion across the galaxy. She stood out. Silver hair that seemed to catch light that wasn't there. Skin with a pearl-like luminescence that marked her as definitely not baseline human. She moved with a grace that made everyone else in the bar look like they were wading through mud. She was also trying very hard to look like she wasn't running from something. I'd seen that look before. The forced, casual walk. The way her eyes swept the room while pretending to look for a seat. The slight tension in her shoulders. Whatever she was running from, it would be coming through that door in the next few minutes. Not my problem. I had my own issues. She slid into a booth in the corner, ordered something from the automated server, and pulled up a holo display. To anyone else, she might have looked like a wealthy tourist who'd taken a wrong turn. But those clothes were too perfect, too clean for someone who'd arrived on any of the regular transports. And her fingers trembled slightly as they moved through the holo interface. The door burst open. 3 figures entered, moving with military precision despite their civilian clothes. Their eyes swept the room, and I saw the telltale bulge of weapons under their jackets. The lead one, a scarred human with cybernetic implants along his jaw, locked onto the silver-haired woman immediately. The crowd seemed to sense trouble, conversations dying as people suddenly remembered urgent business elsewhere. Within seconds, the path between the hunters and their prey was clear. The woman stood slowly, dignity intact despite the fear I could see in her strange, violet eyes. "Gentlemen, surely we can discuss this like civilized beings." "Nothing to discuss, Princess," Scarface said, the title dripping with mockery. "The Council wants you to disappear. Permanently." Princess. That explained the bearing, the clothes, the whole running for her life thing. Probably some local system nobility caught up in a succession dispute. Happened all the time out here where Earth's authority was more suggestion than law. "The Council has no authority over royal blood," she said, voice steady despite everything. "The Council has whatever authority it takes." Scarface pulled something from his pocket. Not a gun. Something worse. A neural dart, the kind that could be loaded with anything from paralytic toxins to nerve agents that would leave you screaming for days before your brain finally melted. The old laws demand a champion's challenge, the princess said quickly. I invoke that right. Scarface laughed. A champion. Here, look around. Your Highness. Nobody in this cesspool is going to risk their neck for... The dart flew. I still don't know why I moved. Maybe it was the way she'd said it. That desperate hope in her voice. Maybe it was because I'd spent too many years saving people to break the habit. Maybe I was just tired of watching bad things happen to people who didn't deserve it. My hand shot out, intercepting the dart meant for her. The sharp point punched through my palm, and immediately I felt the toxin burn into my bloodstream. The pain was instant and extraordinary, like someone had replaced my blood with acid and set my nerves on fire. The last thing I saw before the darkness took me was her face. Those violet eyes, wide with shock, and Scarface raising another dart. Then nothing. I woke up to the sound of machines beeping and the smell of antiseptic so strong it made my eyes water. Medical bay. That much was obvious. But not the kind you'd find on K-94. This was high-end, the kind of facility where they actually cared if you lived or died. My hand throbbed with a dull, persistent ache. I lifted it to find it wrapped in some kind of biomesh bandage that glowed faintly blue. Whatever was in that dart, it had done a number on me. You're awake. I turned my head, a motion that sent spikes of pain through my skull, to find the princess sitting in a chair beside my bed. She looked different. The fear was gone, replaced by something I couldn't quite read. She wore robes now, elaborate things that seemed to shift color as she moved. Where am I? My voice came out as a croak. The medical wing of my ship. We're currently in hyperspace, en route to the Celestial Court. The what now? She smiled slightly. Perhaps I should properly introduce myself. I am Princess Serenia of the Stellarian Empire, third heir to the Crystal Throne, keeper of the ancient codes. That's a lot of titles for someone who was about to get darted in a dive bar. Yes, well, even royalty must sometimes travel incognito. Though I admit, my choice of refuge was poorly considered. I tried to sit up, immediately regretted it as the room spun. Look, Your Highness or whatever, I appreciate the medical attention, but I need to get back. I have obligations. I'm afraid that's not possible. Excuse me. She stood, pacing to a window that showed the twisted light patterns of hyperspace. The dart you intercepted was not meant to kill. It was meant to enslave, a neural toxin developed by our enemies to turn me into a puppet ruler. By taking it in my place, you have not only saved my life, but also prevented a coup that would have destabilized 3 star systems. Great. Hero of the day. Can I go now? She turned back to me, and there was something in her expression that made my stomach drop. The toxin in your system is still active. It's been stabilized, but not neutralized. Our medical technology can keep it controlled. But if you leave our care, you'll be dead within days. Hours, perhaps. I stared at her. You're telling me I'm stuck with you. It's more complicated than that. She returned to the chair, leaning forward. By the ancient codes, the laws that predate even our current empire, you have become my bonded guardian. You saved the life of royal blood at risk to your own. This creates obligations on both sides. I don't care about your ancient codes. I have a sister who needs me. Lena. Yes, we know. At my sharp look, she continued. We conducted a full background check while you were unconscious. Former Space Rescue Corps. Decorated for bravery at the Kepler Station incident. Currently working as an independent freight hauler to pay for your sister's medical treatment. You had no right? I had every right. You are now under royal protection, which means your enemies become our enemies. Your family becomes our responsibility. She pulled out a data pad, showed me a screen. As of 3 hours ago, your sister has been transferred to the finest medical facility on Mars, with all expenses paid by the Royal Treasury. Additionally, your personal accounts have been credited with enough funds to ensure neither of you ever need worry about money again. I looked at the number on the screen. There were a lot of zeros. More zeros than I'd ever seen associated with my name. I didn't ask for this. No, you didn't. Which is precisely why you deserve it. She stood again. Rest now. We'll reach the Celestial Court in 6 hours, and there is much you need to know before then. She moved toward the door, then paused. Marcus Hale, that's your name. Yeah. Thank you, Marcus Hale. You saved more than just my life today. You may have saved an empire. After she left, I lay back and stared at the ceiling, trying to process what had just happened. Yesterday, my biggest concern was making enough credits to cover Lena's next treatment. Now I was apparently bonded to alien royalty, pumped full of controlled neural toxin, and richer than I'd ever dreamed. The comm unit on the bedside table chimed. A message from Lena. Marcus, what did you do? They just moved me to a private suite. There are doctors here I've only read about in medical journals. They're saying they can not just manage my condition, but actually cure it. The administrator mentioned something about royal intervention. Please tell me you didn't do something stupid. I laughed, though it hurt. Something stupid. Yeah, that about covered it. The door opened again, but this time it wasn't Serenia. A massive figure ducked through, and I found myself looking at what had to be the ugliest alien I'd ever seen. 4 arms, skin like molten rock, and a face that looked like someone had tried to sculpt a bulldog out of clay while drunk. You're the human who took the dart. Its voice sounded like gravel in a blender. That's me, Marcus Hale, professional bad decision maker. The alien laughed, a sound like a rock slide. I like you. I'm Rax. Used to serve with the princess's father. Now I serve her. Let me guess. You're here to give me the intimidation speech. Protect her, or else... No. Rax moved closer, and I could see scars covering his rocky hide. I'm here to thank you, and to warn you. Taking that dart was brave. Stupid, but brave. The problem is, it was just the beginning. Beginning of what? The council has been trying to eliminate the royal family for years. They want to modernize. They say, remove the old bloodlines and their ancient laws. Replace them with their vision of democracy. He spat the last word, like it tasted bad. Democracy sounds pretty good to me. Does it? Even when those Democrats are willing to use neural control devices on their opponents. Even when their version of freedom means enslaving entire worlds to their economic system. I didn't have an answer for that. The princess is the last of the direct line who still holds to the old ways. Her parents died in an accident that wasn't an accident. Her brothers disappeared on diplomatic missions that went wrong. She's all that stands between the council and complete control. And now I'm stuck in the middle of it. You stuck yourself in the middle of it. Rax's expression softened, which on his face meant looking slightly less like he wanted to eat someone. But you're not alone. Those loyal to the throne will protect you as we protect her. The toxin in your system makes you valuable to both sides now. How's that? The neural agent was designed specifically for Stellarian physiology. The fact that it didn't kill you instantly means your human biology is processing it differently. You're a walking experiment now. The council will want to study you to perfect their weapon. The princess needs you alive to prove their treachery. Great, I'm a science project. You're more than that. Rax moved to the window, his bulk making the room feel smaller. The ancient codes she mentioned are not just ceremony. They're binding at a quantum level. When you saved her, something happened. A connection formed. She probably hasn't told you the full extent of it yet. What kind of connection? The kind that means if she dies, you die, and vice versa. I sat up so fast my head spun. What? The Bonded Guardian Protocol. It was designed to ensure absolute loyalty. The Guardian cannot betray their charge because their lives are literally intertwined. It's old magic, from before we understood it was just quantum entanglement on a biological scale. You're telling me I'm quantumly entangled with an alien princess? I'm telling you that DART did more than poison you. It activated something ancient, something that recognized your sacrifice and bound you accordingly. He turned back to me. The princess doesn't know this yet. The bond takes time to fully manifest, but you'll start feeling it soon. Her emotions, her pain, maybe even her thoughts if the bond is strong enough. Before I could respond, alarms started blaring. The light from the hyperspace window flickered and died, replaced by the star field of normal space. "We've been pulled out of hyperspace," Rax said, his four hands moving to weapons I hadn't even noticed he was carrying. "That's not possible unless—" The door burst open. Serenia rushed in, her robes billowing. "We're under attack. The Council found us." "How?" Rax demanded. Her violet eyes found mine. "The toxin. It's transmitting. They're tracking us through Marcus." I looked down at my bandaged hand, the blue glow suddenly seeming less like healing and more like a beacon. "Then cut it out. Remove it." "We can't," Serenia said. "It's already spread through your entire nervous system. Removing it would kill you." "Then what do we do?" She moved to my bedside, grabbed my unbandaged hand. Her touch was cool, and I felt something, a flutter of emotion that wasn't mine. Fear, determination, and underneath it all, guilt. "We fight," she said, "and we run, and we find a way to turn their weapon against them." The ship shuddered as something impacted the hull. Through the window, I could see other vessels emerging from hyperspace, surrounding us. "Can you walk?" Serenia asked. "Do I have a choice?" "There's always a choice, but some choices lead to better outcomes than others." I swung my legs out of bed, standing on shaky legs. The world tilted, but I stayed upright. "Where are we going?" "The escape pods," Rax said. "The ship is lost, but if we can reach the surface of that planet, we might have a chance." I looked out the window at the brown and gold sphere hanging in space. A desert world, from the looks of it. "Great," I muttered. "From frying pan to fire." Serenia squeezed my hand. "I'm sorry, Marcus. You saved my life, and I've repaid you by destroying yours." "It's not destroyed yet." I managed a grin. "Besides, my sister is safe and cared for. Whatever happens to me, that's worth it." Another impact, stronger this time. The lights flickered. "Touching moment," Rax growled. "But we need to move. Now." We ran, or in my case, stumbled quickly, through corridors that were rapidly filling with smoke. Other crew members rushed past, heading for battle stations or escape routes. The ship's AI kept announcing damage reports in a language I didn't understand. But the tone was universal. Things were bad and getting worse. We reached the escape pod bay, just as another massive impact threw us against the wall. I tasted blood, my vision swimming. The toxin was reacting to the stress, sending spikes of pain through my nervous system. "He's going into shock," I heard Serenia say, though she sounded far away. "No time," Rax replied. "Get him in the pod." Hands lifted me, carried me. I was strapped into a seat, the restraints tight against my chest. Through blurry vision, I saw Serenia's face close to mine. "Stay with me, Marcus. The bond is forming. Use it. Draw strength from me." I didn't know what she meant until I felt it. A warmth. Not in my body, but somewhere deeper. Like someone had lit a candle in a dark room I didn't know existed. I reached for it, and suddenly, I could feel her. Her determination, her fear for her people, her growing concern for me, a stranger who'd stumbled into her war. "That's it," she whispered. "Hold on to that." The pod launched, and my world became chaos, spinning, falling, burning through atmosphere. Through the tiny window, I saw our ship explode, taking several council vessels with it. Then, we hit the planet's atmosphere, and everything became fire and noise. We crashed. There's no other word for it. The pod's landing systems tried their best, but we hit hard enough to knock the breath from my lungs. The restraints were the only thing that kept me from becoming a smear on the bulkhead. When the world stopped spinning, I found myself looking at an endless expanse of sand and rock through the cracked window. The air that seeped in was hot and dry, carrying the smell of burnt metal and ozone. "Everyone alive," I croaked. "Define alive," Rax grumbled, pulling himself free from restraints that had barely contained his bulk. Serenia was already at the control panel, trying to send a distress signal. "The comm system is damaged. We're on our own." I unbuckled myself, standing on legs that felt like jelly. The desert stretched to the horizon in every direction, broken only by massive rock formations that looked like giant teeth jutting from the sand. "Any idea where we are?" I asked. "Theta 9, Serenia said. "A mining world, abandoned decades ago when the resources ran out. There should be settlements, or what's left of them." "Should be." The planet was abandoned for a reason. The miners dug too deep, awakened something. The official reports are classified, but the rumors speak of creatures that hunt in the sand. Of course they do. I looked at my bandaged hand. The blue glow was fading, but I could still feel the toxin burning through my veins. "How long before they track us here?" "Hours. Maybe less," Rax said. "We need to move, find shelter, and figure out our next step." I looked at the princess. This alien woman I'd known for less than a day, but was now apparently bonded to for life. She met my gaze, and I saw my own determination reflected in those violet eyes. "Then let's get moving," I said. "I didn't take a poison dart for you just to die in a desert." She smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her. "No, Marcus Hale. I don't believe you did." We gathered what supplies we could from the pod and set out into the desert. 3 unlikely companions, a poisoned human, an alien princess, and a 4-armed warrior. Behind us, smoke from our crashed pod rose into the orange sky. Ahead, only sand and uncertainty. But at least Lena was safe. Whatever happened next, that made it all worthwhile. The desert heat hit like a physical wall once we moved away from the pod's shadow. Within minutes, my shirt was soaked through with sweat, and the toxin in my system seemed to pulse harder with each heartbeat. Every step sent little lightning bolts of pain through my nerves. But I kept moving. Stopping meant death, either from the Council's hunters or from whatever lived in these wastes. "There." Serenia pointed toward a rock formation about 2 kilometers away. "We can take shelter and plan our next move." "Assuming we make it that far," I muttered, squinting against the twin suns hanging in the orange sky. The sand was already finding its way into every piece of equipment we'd salvaged, and my mouth felt like I'd been chewing on sandpaper. Rax took point, his 4 arms carrying most of our supplies while simultaneously holding weapons ready. Despite his bulk, he moved across the sand with surprising grace, leaving barely any tracks. Serenia and I followed, with me bringing up the rear and trying not to show how much each step cost me. We'd made it maybe half a kilometer when Rax suddenly froze, all 4 arms going tense. "Down," he hissed, and we dropped to the sand without question. I pressed myself flat, feeling the heat through my clothes. "What is it?" "Sand tremor. Something's moving beneath us." I wanted to ask what kind of something, but the answer came soon enough. About 50 meters to our left, the sand began to shift and rise. Something emerged that made me wish I'd stayed in that bar on K94. It was like someone had crossed a centipede with a shark and then decided to make it the size of a shuttlecraft. Segments of chitinous armor covered its length, each piece grinding against the others as it moved. But it was the mouth that made my blood run cold. A circular maw filled with rows of rotating teeth that could grind anything to dust. "Sandworm," Serenia breathed. "Don't move. They hunt by vibration." We lay there, still as corpses, as the creature swept its eyeless head back and forth. My heart hammered so hard, I was sure the thing could hear it. The toxin chose that moment to send another wave of agony through my system, and I had to bite down on my tongue to keep from crying out. Through our strange new bond, I felt Serenya's concern spike. Her hand found mine in the sand, and that warmth I'd felt earlier flooded through me again. The pain didn't disappear, but it became manageable, like she was sharing the burden. The worm lingered for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Finally, it dove back into the sand, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. We waited another full minute before Rax signaled it was safe to move. "That was close," I said, helping Serenya to her feet. "Too close," she agreed. "And it won't be the last. The worms are why this planet was abandoned. The miners' equipment attracted them, and once they learned that vibrations meant food, they wiped out the colonies," Rax finished. "We need to reach solid rock. The worms can't tunnel through that." We moved faster now, caution balanced against urgency. The rock formation grew larger as we approached, revealing itself to be the remains of some ancient structure. Walls of carved stone jutted from the sand at odd angles, covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. "Pre-expansion ruins," Serenya said, running her fingers over the markings. "This planet had a civilization once, before humans or Stellarians reached this sector." "What happened to them? No one knows. They were gone long before we arrived. Only their ruins remain, and those are strange." Strange was an understatement. The moment we entered the structure, the temperature dropped by at least 20 degrees. The walls seemed to absorb sound, making our footsteps eerily muted. And there was something else, a feeling of being watched by things that weren't quite there. "I don't like this place," Rax growled, his weapons drawn. "Neither do I," Serenya admitted. "But it's better than being worm food." We found a chamber near the center of the ruins that seemed defensible. One entrance, solid walls, and no sand for anything to burrow through. Rax immediately began setting up our salvaged equipment, while Serenya worked on the damaged communicator. I slumped against a wall, finally allowing myself to feel the full extent of my exhaustion. The bond with Serenya hummed in the back of my mind, a constant reminder of how completely my life had changed in the span of a day. "You need medical attention," Serenya said, leaving the communicator to kneel beside me. "The stress is accelerating the toxin spread." "Not much we can do about that here." She pulled a medical kit from our supplies, extracting a device that looked like a cross between a syringe and a tuning fork. "This will help temporarily. It's a neural stabilizer, designed to slow the degradation." "Will it hurt?" "Probably." "Of course it will." She pressed the device against my neck. And I was right. It did hurt. But afterward, the constant burning sensation faded to a dull ache. I could think clearly for the first time since taking the dart. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," she said, not meeting my eyes. "This is my fault. You're suffering because of my family's enemies." "I'm suffering because I made a choice," I corrected. "A choice I'd make again." "Why?" She looked at me then, those violet eyes full of genuine confusion. "You didn't know me. You had no stake in our politics. Why throw your life away for a stranger?" I thought about it. Really thought about it for the first time. Because I spent 3 years pulling people out of destroyed ships and burning stations. 3 years of being too late, of finding bodies instead of survivors. When I saw that dart flying toward you, I finally had a chance to be fast enough, to save someone instead of just cataloging the dead. "And your sister. What about your obligation to her?" "Lena would never forgive me if I let someone die when I could have prevented it. She's got more courage in her pinky finger than most people have in their entire bodies. The disease might be destroying her body, but it never touched her spirit." Serenya was quiet for a moment, processing this. "Your species is strange. Most would prioritize their own family above all else. Humans are complicated. I agreed. We're capable of incredible selfishness and incredible sacrifice, sometimes in the same person on the same day. The Stellarians have a saying, she said. The measure of a being is not in what they do when the path is clear, but in what they choose when all paths lead to darkness. And what path are we on now? Before she could answer, the communicator crackled to life, but instead of a rescue signal, we heard a voice that made Serenia go rigid with fear. Princess Serenia. The voice was smooth, cultured, with an undertone of menace. I know you're listening. This is Lord Cadron of the Reformed Council. Your little escape was impressive, but ultimately futile. Serenia moved to the communicator, her hands trembling slightly. Cadron, I should have known you were behind this treachery. Treachery? No. Your Highness, progress. The old ways are dying. The Empire needs new leadership, unshackled by ancient superstitions and outdated traditions. You mean leadership you can control? Cadron laughed, a sound like silk over steel. Control is such an ugly word. I prefer to think of it as guidance. But let's discuss your companion, Marcus Hale. Yes, we know all about him. Former Rescue Corps, decorated hero, currently dying from our neural toxin. I moved closer to the communicator. I'm still breathing, if that matters. Ah, the hero himself. Tell me, Mr. Hale, do you know why that particular toxin was chosen? It wasn't just to control the princess. It was specifically designed to be compatible with human physiology. You see, we've been planning this for a very long time. What are you talking about? The Kepler station incident. You were there, weren't you? Such a tragedy. All those lives lost because the station's life support systems mysteriously failed. My blood went cold. That was an accident, a cascade failure in the primary systems. Was it, or was it a test run, a proof of concept for weapons that could cripple entire populations? I felt sick. The Kepler incident had killed 300 people and left dozens more, including Lena, with permanent damage from oxygen deprivation. If it hadn't been an accident. You're lying, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. The commander of the rescue operation that day was Captain Marcus Webb. Ring any bells, he goes by Lord Cadron now, having earned his title through service to the Reformed Council. He spoke very highly of your efforts that day, Mr. Hale. Said you almost uncovered the truth. The name hit me like a physical blow. Webb, my commanding officer. The man who'd ordered us to focus on the executive decks while the civilian quarters suffocated. The man who'd disappeared after the investigation, taking crucial evidence with him. You son of a bitch, I breathed. Such language. But understandable, given the circumstances. Here's my offer, surrender the princess, and I'll provide the antidote for your toxin. You can go back to your sister. Live out your days in comfort with the money the princess so generously provided. No one else needs to die. Marcus, no, Serenia said, but I held up a hand. And if I refuse, then you die slowly and painfully. The princess becomes a puppet anyway. And your sister, well, medical facilities can be dangerous places. Accidents happen all the time. The threat against Lena made my vision go red. But before I could respond, Serenia stepped forward. You forget yourself, Cadron. Threatening the family of a bonded guardian is a violation of the Stellar Accords. Even the Reformed Council wouldn't dare break that treaty. Treaties only matter if someone's alive to enforce them. Your Highness. The communicator went dead. We stood in silence for a moment, processing what we'd learned. Then Rax spoke up. He's mobilizing ground forces. They'll be here within hours. Then we need to move, Serenia said. There's an old mining facility about 40 kilometers north. If we can reach it, we might find transportation off this planet. 40 kilometers through worm-infested desert with the council on our heels, I summarized. Great. There's another problem, Rax said. The toxin in your system is still transmitting. They'll track us wherever we go. I looked at my hand. The blue glow now completely gone, but the poison still burning through my veins. Then we need to turn that against them somehow. What are you thinking? Serenia asked. I'm thinking about something my old instructor used to say: if the enemy knows where you are, make sure it's where you want them to look. I pulled out the medical scanner from our kit, studying the readout of my contaminated blood. The toxin was fascinating in a horrifying way. Microscopic machines that were slowly rewriting my nervous system. But machines could be hacked, reprogrammed, fooled. Rax, how much explosive do we have? The alien warrior grinned, showing far too many teeth. Enough to make a statement. Good. And Serenia, that neural stabilizer. Can it be modified to amplify the toxin signal instead of suppressing it? She caught on immediately. Create a decoy. Make them think we're somewhere we're not. Exactly. We leave a blood sample here, amplified to look like I'm still in the ruins. Rig it to blow when they arrive. Meanwhile, we take the long way around to the mining facility. That might work, Rax admitted. But the journey will be dangerous. Without the stabilizer, the toxin will spread faster. I'll manage. Serenia took my hand again, and I felt her determination through our bond. We'll manage. The connection works both ways. Marcus, I can help bear the load. That could hurt you. You took a poison dart for me. I can handle a little shared pain. We worked quickly, setting up the trap. I'll spare you the details of extracting enough blood to make it convincing. But let's just say it wasn't pleasant. Serenia modified the stabilizer, while Rax rigged the explosives with an artist's attention to detail. As we prepared to leave, I caught Serenia staring at the ancient symbols on the walls. What is it? These markings. I've seen them before, in the Royal Archives. They're warnings, but not about the worms. Then what? She traced one symbol that looked like a twisted star. They speak of something sleeping beneath the sand, something that should never be woken. Let me guess, the miners woke it? No. According to the records, they found it still sleeping and ran. But the Reformed Council has been searching for it. They think it's some kind of ancient weapon. Of course they do. I shouldered my pack, trying to ignore how heavy it felt. Any idea what it actually is? None. But if Kadrin is coming here personally... She didn't need to finish the thought. We left the ruins as the second sun began to set, casting long shadows across the desert. The temperature was dropping, which would make travel easier, but would also bring out the nocturnal predators. We moved in single file, Rax leading us on a winding path that avoided the softer sand where worms might hunt. About an hour into our journey, the ruins exploded behind us. The flash lit up the darkening sky, and even at this distance, we felt the shockwave. I turned to see a pillar of fire rising into the night, visible for dozens of kilometers in every direction. Think we got them? I asked. Some of them, Rax said. But Kadrin's too smart to put all his forces in one place. As if to prove his point, lights appeared on the horizon, aircraft, moving in search patterns. Run! Serenia commanded. We ran. The next few hours blurred together into a nightmare of exhaustion and terror. We sprinted across open ground, dove behind rocks when aircraft passed overhead, and froze whenever the sand shifted suspiciously. The toxin fought me every step, sending waves of agony through my system that would have dropped me if not for Serenia's support through our bond. I could feel her taking on part of my pain, processing it through her alien nervous system and somehow making it bearable. But I could also feel what it cost her. Each shared wave of agony left her a little weaker, a little slower. You need to stop, I told her during a brief rest behind a ridge. No, we're in this together now. The bond doesn't mean you have to suffer for my choices. She looked at me with those impossible violet eyes. Doesn't it, Marcus? The bond isn't just some mystical connection. It's a recognition of sacrifice, of one being willing to die for another. It binds us because we've already chosen each other's lives over our own. I chose to save you. You didn't choose anything. I chose to save you afterward. I could have left you to die. Let the toxin take you. It would have been easier, cleaner. But I couldn't. Not after what you did. Before I could respond, Rax returned from scouting ahead. The mining facility is just over the next rise, but we have a problem. We crawled to the edge of the ridge and looked down. The mining facility was there, all right. It was also surrounded by council forces. It's a trap, I said. Obviously, Serenia agreed. But look closer. I did, using the scope from Rax's rifle. The council forces were arranged strangely, facing outward rather than inward, and there was damage to their vehicles, scorch marks and tears that looked fresh. They're not waiting for us, I realized. They're defending against something. As if on cue, the sand around the facility began to shift. But this wasn't worms. This was something else, something that made the worms look like earthworms by comparison. The thing that emerged from the sand defied description. It was partially mechanical, partially organic, and wholly wrong. Tentacles of living metal whipped through the air, each one ending in weapons that shouldn't exist. The council forces opened fire, but their weapons barely scratched it. The ancient weapon, Serenia breathed. They found it and woke it up. That's a weapon. No, she said, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and terror. It's a guardian, the civilization that built these ruins. They created it to protect something, and the council just violated its territory. We watched as the thing tore through the council forces like paper. Soldiers screamed, vehicles exploded, and within minutes, the organized military force was reduced to scattered survivors running for their lives. We need to get to the facility, Rax said. While it's distracted. Are you insane? I asked. Probably. But there's a ship down there, and it's our only way off this planet. I looked at Serenia. She nodded. So we ran toward the ancient guardian and the carnage it was creating, because apparently, that was our life now. The guardian sensed us immediately. One of its tentacles swung in our direction, and I saw my death approaching at supersonic speed. But then Serenia stepped forward, pulling something from her robes, a crystal that glowed with the same light as the symbols in the ruins. She spoke in a language I didn't recognize, words that seemed to resonate in my bones. The tentacle stopped inches from her face, trembling, as if confused. How I managed to ask. The royal family are keepers of many secrets, she said, never taking her eyes off the guardian, including treaties with civilizations that no longer exist. The guardian withdrew, slowly, reluctantly. It didn't leave, but it allowed us to pass. We reached the facility to find most of the council forces dead or fled. A few survivors were too terrified to even notice us. We found the ship Rax had spotted, a small courier vessel, but functional. Can you fly this? I asked Rax. I can fly anything, he boasted, already working on the startup sequence. As the engines warmed up, I heard a familiar voice. Leaving so soon? Lord Cadron stood in the hangar entrance. But this wasn't the composed leader from the communication. This was Marcus Webb, my old commander, wearing the face of a man who'd orchestrated the deaths of hundreds. Webb, I said, the name tasting like ashes. Hello, Marcus, it's been a long time. Not long enough. He stepped forward, and I saw he was holding a weapon I recognized. A neural disruptor, the same kind that had caused the Kepler station disaster. You know, I always regretted that you survived that day. You asked too many questions, noticed too many inconsistencies. If you'd just died like you were supposed to. Lena would have died too. Collateral damage. Regrettable but necessary. The old order needs to fall. Marcus, humanity, and the other races need to evolve beyond these ancient restrictions. By using mind control and mass murder. By any means necessary. He raised the weapon. But I'll give you one more chance. Join us. Your tactical skills, combined with our resources, could reshape the galaxy. Go to hell, he smiled sadly. I thought you'd say that. He fired, but the shot never reached me. Serenia stepped between us. That same crystal raised. The neural disruption hit the crystal and refracted, filling the hangar with deadly energy. Kadrin screamed as his own weapon's effect washed over him, his neural system overloading. He collapsed, convulsing. Not dead, but definitely out of the fight. We need to go, Rax called from the ship. The Guardian's getting agitated. We ran for the ship as the ancient weapon began moving toward the hangar. Rax had the engines at full power before the ramp even closed, launching us into the night sky just as tentacles of living metal smashed through the walls. As we climbed toward space, I looked back at the planet below. The Guardian was fully emerged now, a nightmare of ancient technology that dwarfed anything humanity or the Stellarians had created. It was destroying everything the Council had brought to the planet, cleansing what it saw as an infection. Will it stop? I asked Serenia. When the threat is gone, it will return to sleep. It's not evil, just protective. What was it protecting? She was quiet for a moment. According to the archives, that planet was a nursery. The civilization that built it was storing something there, something precious to them. Their children, perhaps, or the seeds of their rebirth. The Guardian was to ensure nothing disturbed them until the time was right. And the Council just kicked down the door. They have a talent for that. I slumped in my seat, exhaustion finally catching up with me. The toxin was still burning through my system, kept barely in check by Serenia's shared strength. But we were alive, we were free, and we were heading somewhere. Where to now? I asked. The Celestial Court, Serenia said. My family's seat of power. If we can reach it, I can rally the loyal houses and expose the Council's crimes. And the toxin. The royal physicians might be able to help. The technology exists. It's just... She hesitated. Just what? Forbidden. The procedure to remove neural toxins at this level of integration requires techniques that were outlawed centuries ago. It involves quantum consciousness transfer, essentially moving your mind to a new body, while the old one is purged and rebuilt. That sounds terrifying. It is, and it only has a 60% survival rate. Better than 0%. She took my hand again, and I felt her fear for me through our bond. But underneath that, something else. Something warmer. Marcus, what you did back there, facing Kadrin? Webb, I corrected. His name is Webb, and he's going to pay for what he did. The Council won't give up. They'll come after us with everything they have. Then we'd better be ready. Rax called back from the pilot's seat. We've got company. 3 Council interceptors, coming in fast. I groaned. Don't these people ever give up? Never, Serenia said. But neither do we. She moved to the weapons console, her fingers flying over the controls. Marcus, can you handle the shields? I was Rescue Corps, not military. The principle's the same. Keep us alive. I took the shield station, trying to make sense of the alien controls. Through our bond, I felt Serenia's knowledge bleeding over, showing me what to do. It was disorienting but effective. The first shots came seconds later. The ship rocked, but the shields held. Return fire, Rax commanded. Serenia's response was precise and devastating. 1 interceptor exploded immediately, the other 2 scattering. They're trying to flank us, I reported, watching the shield readouts. Let them try, Rax said, throwing the ship into a maneuver that should have been impossible for its size. The next few minutes were chaos. Laser fire, explosions, the constant scream of proximity alarms. But somehow, through skill or luck or sheer stubbornness, we survived. The last interceptor broke off, limping back toward the planet. We did it, I breathed. This time, Serenia said. But they'll keep coming. The Council has resources we can barely imagine. Then we'll need resources of our own. She smiled, and for the first time, I saw the ruler she could become. Leave that to me. The royal houses have been waiting for an excuse to move against the council. We just gave them one. As we entered hyperspace, leaving the desert planet and its ancient guardian behind, I thought about everything that had happened 24 hours ago. I was just another freelance hauler trying to make ends meet. Now I was bonded to alien royalty, dying from an exotic poison, and apparently at the center of a galactic civil war. But Lena was safe. Lena was getting treatment. And maybe, just maybe, we could stop the council before they hurt anyone else the way they'd hurt my sister. Marcus, Serenia said softly. Thank you. For what? For being the kind of person who catches poisoned darts for strangers. Well, you're not exactly a stranger anymore. No, she agreed. And I felt something shift in our bond. Something that made my heart race for reasons that had nothing to do with toxins or danger. We're something else entirely now. The ship hummed around us as we raced through hyperspace toward an uncertain future. But for the first time since that dart hit my hand, I felt something other than pain or fear. I felt hope. The celestial court materialized out of hyperspace like something from a dream, or maybe a nightmare, depending on your perspective. 3 massive rings rotated around a central sphere, each ring containing entire cities worth of structures. The whole thing was easily the size of a small moon, and it glowed with an inner light that had nothing to do with the nearby star. Welcome to the heart of the Stellarian Empire, Serenia said, though her voice carried more tension than pride. That's a space station, I asked, pressing my face against the viewport. That's the crown jewel, Rax corrected. Built over 3,000 years ago, when the Stellarians first achieved interstellar flight. It's been the seat of royal power ever since. And we're just going to fly in there after everything that's happened. The court doesn't recognize the Reformed Council's authority, Serenia explained. As long as we're within its borders, they can't touch us. Officially. That officially carried a lot of weight. As we approached, dozens of ships appeared around us. Not attacking, but definitely escorting. Golden vessels with curves that looked more grown than built, moving with an organic fluidity that made our stolen courier ship look like a flying brick. Royal Guard, Serenia said, and I felt relief flood through our bond. They're here to protect us. The lead ship transmitted coordinates, and Rax followed them without question. We were guided to a docking bay in the middle ring, passing through energy fields that made my skin tingle, even through the hull. When we finally landed, I could barely stand. The adrenaline that had kept me going was gone, and the toxin was making its presence known with a vengeance. Every nerve felt like it was being slowly dissolved in acid. Medical team, now. Serenia commanded the moment the ramp lowered. What rushed in wasn't what I expected. Instead of doctors in white coats, we got beings that looked like they were made of living crystal, their bodies refracting light in impossible ways. They surrounded me, singing in harmonious tones that somehow eased the pain. Crystalline healers, Serenia explained as they guided me onto a floating stretcher. The best in the galaxy. They're beautiful, I mumbled, probably delirious from the pain. Save your flirting for after you're not dying, she said, but there was warmth in her voice. The next few hours blurred together. The healers did things to me that I couldn't understand, using technology that looked like magic. At one point, I swear they pulled my consciousness out of my body and held it in a sphere of light while they worked on the physical me. When I finally woke up properly, I was in a room that made the medical bay on Serenia's ship look like a closet. The walls were transparent aluminum, offering a view of the station's central core. Gardens floated in zero-gravity bubbles, and beings of a dozen different species moved through aerial walkways. You're awake. I turned to find not Serenia, but an elderly Stellarian male. His silver hair had faded to white, and his violet eyes carried the weight of centuries. And you are... Lord Chancellor Aurelius, Princess Serenya's great-uncle and, currently, regent of the Stellarian Empire. I tried to sit up, probably should have bowed or something, but he waved me back down. Rest, Mr. Hale. You've been through quite an ordeal. The healers have stabilized the toxin, but removal will require the procedure Serenya mentioned, the one with a 60% survival rate. Better than zero. He smiled sadly. Yes, that's what she said you'd say. But before we proceed, there are matters we must discuss. The princess has made some rather significant claims about the Reformed Council's actions. They're not claims. Cadrin. He admitted to orchestrating the Kepler station disaster. 300 people died because of him. And you have proof. I have my word. In the court. That carries less weight than you might hope. He moved to the window, hands clasped behind his back. The Reformed Council has many supporters, even here. They promise modernization, democratization, an end to what they call the tyranny of bloodlines. And neural control devices, don't forget those. Yes, that is troubling. But without concrete evidence. Then get some. The toxin in my system. It's their design, right, that has to count for something. It does. Which is why you're still alive. Several council representatives have already demanded your surrender, claiming you're a terrorist who attempted to assassinate one of their leaders. That's insane. That's politics. He turned back to me. But you have something they don't. The princess's favor, and through the bonded guardian protocol, her protection. About that, Rax mentioned something about quantum entanglement. Aurelius nodded. An ancient practice, from before we understood the science behind it. When you saved her life at risk to your own, it activated dormant quantum fields in both your nervous systems. You're connected now at a fundamental level. What affects one affects the other. So if she dies, you die, and vice versa. It was designed to ensure absolute loyalty between protector and protected. That seems excessive. The ancestors were nothing if not thorough. He pulled out a datapad. Which brings us to the current situation. The princess wishes to address the full court, to present her case against the Reformed Council. But she needs evidence, witnesses, something more than accusations. What about the neural dart, the toxin? Being analyzed as we speak. But the council claims it was meant for you, not her. That you were the target all along. That's ridiculous. I was nobody. Just a cargo hauler in the wrong place. Or the right place, depending on perspective. He studied me with those ancient eyes. Tell me, Mr. Hale, do you believe in destiny? I believe in cause and effect. Then consider this: what are the odds that you, specifically you, would be in that bar at that exact moment, a former rescue specialist with the skills to survive the toxin, with a sister whose condition makes you sympathetic to the princess's cause, with a history that connects directly to the council's crimes. I felt a chill run down my spine. You're saying this was planned? I'm saying that perhaps both sides have been playing a longer game than we realized. Before I could process that, the door opened and Serenya entered, followed by Rax. She looked different in formal robes, more distant, more alien. But when our eyes met, I felt that familiar warmth through our bond. Uncle, she said, nodding to Aurelius. Thank you for watching over him. My pleasure. Mr. Hale and I were just discussing the nature of coincidence. There are no coincidences in politics, she said, moving to my bedside. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a poison dart and then fought through a desert planet. So, typical Tuesday. She smiled, and for a moment, the formal mask slipped. The healers say you're strong enough for visitors. There's someone who wants to speak with you. The wall screen activated, and suddenly, I was looking at Lena. She was sitting up in bed, color in her cheeks for the first time in years. Marcus, her voice was clear, strong. You look terrible. Thanks, kid, you look amazing. The doctors here are incredible. They say they can actually repair the neural damage, not just manage it. They're talking about a full recovery. Marcus, I could walk again. Really walk, not just stumble around with assistive devices. Tears burned my eyes. That's wonderful, Lena. But what's going on? They told me you saved some princess, that you're involved in some kind of political thing. I glanced at Serenia, who nodded. It's complicated, but yeah, I kind of stumbled into a situation. You mean you threw yourself into danger to help someone? As usual. You know me so well. Her expression grew serious. Marcus, there are people here asking questions. About you. About the Kepler incident. They're saying you might have evidence about what really happened. What kind of people? They didn't say, but they had official badges. Investigative division or something. Aurelius and Serenia exchanged glances. The arbiters, Aurelius said. They're like your internal affairs, but for the entire galactic community. If they're investigating, it means someone filed a formal complaint, Serenia finished. Either against the council or against us. Marcus, Lena said. Be careful. I just got you back. I don't want to lose you to some political nonsense. You won't. I promise. We talked for a few more minutes about her treatment, her new doctors, the facility that was more like a luxury resort than a hospital. When the call ended, I felt both relieved and more determined than ever. The arbiters will want to interview you, Aurelius said. Your testimony about Cadron's confession could be crucial. Will they believe me? They have ways of verifying truth. Technology that can detect deception at a quantum level. If you're telling the truth, they'll know. Good, because I have a lot of truth to tell. Over the next 3 days, I told that truth repeatedly, to the arbiters, to royal investigators, to what felt like every official in the Celestial Court. They scanned my brain, analyzed my blood, even did something called temporal impression reading that supposedly could detect recent memories. Through it all, Serenia stayed close, not always in the same room, but always within reach through our bond. I could feel her fighting her own battles, political maneuvering that was just as dangerous as any physical threat. On the 4th day, things changed. I was in the medical center, preparing for another round of treatments, when Rax burst in. We have a problem. What kind of problem? The kind that involves 3 council battlecruisers jumping into court space. They wouldn't dare, Serenia said, appearing in the doorway. The neutrality of the court is sacred. Tell that to them. Rax pulled up a holographic display, showing 3 massive ships approaching the station. They're claiming they're here for diplomatic talks, but those ships are armed for war. How long before they're in range? 6 hours, maybe less. Serenia turned to me. Can you move? Do I have a choice? There's always a choice, but some lead to better outcomes than others. I stood, pleased to find my legs steady. The treatments had helped, even if they hadn't cured me. What's the plan? We need to get you to the archive. The what? The Royal Archive. It contains records going back millennia, including sealed files from the Kepler incident. If Webb really was involved, there might be evidence there. Why didn't we check before? Because accessing sealed records requires special authorization. Authorization I just received. She held up a crystal key. The Regent finally agreed that the threat outweighs the protocols. We moved through the station quickly, but carefully. The corridors were buzzing with activity, people preparing for either diplomacy or battle. I saw defensive positions being set up, weapons being distributed, families moving to secure areas. This is my fault, I said. No, Serenia said firmly. This was always coming. The Council has been planning this for years. You just accelerated their timeline. The archive was in the oldest part of the station, a section that looked like it had been carved from a single, massive crystal. The walls hummed with stored information, billions of years of history encoded in quantum crystalline matrices. Impressive, I breathed. "This is just the entrance," Serenya said, placing the key in a receptacle that looked more like art than technology. The walls came alive, data flowing like water. She navigated through it with practiced ease, pulling up files, dismissing others, searching for something specific. "There," she said finally. "Kepler Station incident, classified files." The data that appeared made my blood run cold. Reports, videos, communication logs, all showing that the disaster wasn't an accident. It was a test. Project Neural Storm, I read. A proof of concept for wide-area neural disruption. 300 test subjects. Isolated location. Controlled variables. "Monster," Serenya breathed. But there was more. Financial records showing payments to Webb. Orders signed by high-ranking council members. And most damning, a video of Webb himself, reporting on the successful completion of the trial. "We have them," I said. "We have evidence. Whether it's enough?" Serenya started downloading the files to multiple secure devices. That's when the lights flickered. "They're jamming our power grid," Rax reported over comms. "The council ships are making their move." "How long do we have?" Serenya asked. "Minutes, maybe less. They've launched boarding pods." She turned to me, and I saw fear in her eyes for the first time. Not for herself, but for what might happen if the council got their hands on this evidence. "We need to transmit this data everywhere. Every news outlet, every government, every ship in the sector." "The council will block standard transmissions," I said. Then an idea hit me. "But they can't block the toxin signal." "What?" "The toxin in my system. It's transmitting." "Right. That's how they tracked us. What if we could modulate that signal? Use it to carry data?" Serenya's eyes widened. "That's insane. The strain could kill you." 60% survival rate. Remember, I'll take those odds." She worked furiously, reconfiguring her equipment to interface with my neural system. It hurt, like someone was rewriting my DNA with a rusty knife. But I held still. "Ready?" she asked. "Do it." She activated the transmission, and agony exploded through every nerve. But I could feel it working, the data flowing out through the toxin's quantum signature, impossible to block or jam. The door exploded inward. Council soldiers poured in, weapons raised. "Step away from the terminal," the lead soldier commanded. "Too late," I gasped through the pain. "It's already done." They grabbed us, rough hands pulling us apart. But I could feel Serenya's triumph through our bond. The data was out. The truth about Kepler, about the Council's crimes, was spreading across the galaxy at the speed of thought. They dragged us to the docking bay where one of the Council battlecruisers had forcibly attached itself to the station. Webb was there, no longer hiding behind his Lord Cadron persona. "You've caused me a great deal of trouble, Marcus," he said. "Good." He backhanded me, and I tasted blood. Through our bond, I felt Serenya's rage. "The truth is out, Webb," she said. "Everyone knows what you did." "The truth is what we make it," he replied. "And right now, the truth is that a delusional princess and her terrorist accomplice tried to destabilize the legitimate government. The arbiters have the evidence. The arbiters are political appointees who can be replaced." He pulled out a neural control device, similar to the one he'd used on the planet. "But first, I think it's time to test our newest innovation. A control device specifically calibrated to Stellarian physiology. Imagine, Princess, becoming the puppet ruler we always intended, and your bonded guardian gets to watch it happen." He activated the device, and Serenya screamed. Through our bond, I felt her mind being invaded, rewritten, controlled. But I also felt something else. The toxin in my system, supercharged by the data transmission, was resonating with the control signal. "No," I growled, and did something incredibly stupid. I embraced the toxin. Instead of fighting it, I let it flow through me completely, using our bond to channel it into Serenya's system. The alien poison met the control signal and the two technologies, both council designs, recognized each other and canceled each other out. The feedback loop was spectacular. Webb's device exploded, sending him flying. The soldiers' weapons, all connected to the same control network, overloaded. Emergency systems throughout the ship activated as the neural disruption field collapsed in on itself. Serenia and I stood in the center of the chaos, connected through our bond, the toxin flowing between us in perfect balance. Neither killing nor controlling, just existing in quantum equilibrium. "Impossible," Webb gasped, struggling to his feet. "No," I said, helping Serenia stand. "Just human stubbornness meets alien determination." The bay doors burst open again, but this time it was royal guards, led by Aurelius himself. Behind them, I could see Arbiter forces, their black armor distinctive against the golden royal colors. "Marcus Webb," the lead Arbiter announced. "You are under arrest for crimes against sentient beings, violation of the Stellar Accords, and mass murder." Webb tried to run, but Rax was there, all four arms ready. The former commander didn't stand a chance. As they dragged him away, he looked back at me. "This isn't over. The Council has resources you can't imagine. And we have something you'll never understand," Serenia said, her hand finding mine. "We have each other." Cheesy maybe, but after everything we'd been through, I didn't care. The next few hours were a blur of debriefings, medical checks, and political maneuvering. The Council's battlecruisers were impounded, their crews arrested or fled. The evidence we'd transmitted had reached every major news network, causing protests on a dozen worlds. But the most important moment came in a quiet medical room, where the crystalline healers explained what had happened. The toxin and the control signal. When they met in your shared neural space, they neutralized each other. The lead healer sang. "But more than that, they've created something new. A quantum antibody that makes you both immune to neural manipulation." "So we're cured?" I asked. "Not cured, changed. The toxin is still there, but dormant, symbiotic rather than parasitic. It's become part of you, part of your bond." "Is that safe?" "We don't know. This has never happened before. You're unique in the galaxy." "Great. I always wanted to be special." Serenia squeezed my hand. "You already were." Later, as we stood on an observation deck watching the Council ships being escorted away, she asked, "What will you do now?" "I don't know. My cargo hauling days are probably over. Hard to be inconspicuous when you're bonded to alien royalty." "You could stay here. Become an official guardian. The position comes with excellent benefits." "Such as?" "Well, for one, you'd get to spend time with me. That's a pretty good benefit." She turned to face me fully, and I saw vulnerability in her eyes. "Marcus, I need to tell you something. The bond between us. It's not just political or quantum. I feel, that is, when you're not around. I know," I said. "I feel it too. This is highly irregular. A human and a Stellarian." "Since when has anything about us been regular?" She laughed, a sound like silver bells. "True. Besides," I added, "we've already shared blood, neural patterns, and a quantum bond. What's a little irregular romance on top of that?" "Romance, is that what this is?" "I don't know. Want to find out?" She leaned in, and our lips met. It was electric. Not just physically, but through our bond. I could feel her emotions, her thoughts, her very being. It was overwhelming and perfect and absolutely terrifying. When we pulled apart, she was smiling. "Well, that was irregular. Perfect." A comm unit chimed. Rax's voice came through. "Sorry to interrupt whatever you two are doing, but we have a situation." "What kind of situation?" Serenia asked. "The good kind, for once. The Arbiters have officially charged the entire Reformed Council leadership with crimes against humanity, and the royal houses are calling for a formal coronation. Coronation, I asked. Serenia looked uncomfortable. With my parents gone and my brothers missing, I'm the only direct heir. They want to crown me empress. That's good, right? It's complicated. An empress needs advisors, guards, a whole court infrastructure, and traditionally, a consort. Oh, but that's a problem for tomorrow, she said quickly. Tonight, we celebrate being alive. The celebration was something to see. The entire celestial court lit up with festivities. Music that shouldn't exist, food from 100 worlds, and beings of every description coming together in joy. I found myself standing with Rax, watching Serenia work the crowd with natural grace. She's something special, the four-armed warrior said. Yeah, she is. You know you can't go back to your old life. I know. And if you hurt her, I'll turn you into paste. I know that too. He clapped me on the back with enough force to bruise. Good. Welcome to the family. Family. You're bonded to our future empress. That makes you family, whether you like it or not. I thought about that. Family. It had just been me and Lena for so long. The idea of having more family was strange, but not unwelcome. As the night wore on, I found myself on a balcony overlooking the central core. Ships came and went, carrying news of the Council's downfall across the galaxy. Change was coming. Big change. Credits for your thoughts, Serenia said, joining me. Just thinking about how a week ago, my biggest concern was making rent. And now I'm bonded to an alien princess, immune to mind control, and apparently part of a galactic revolution. Having regrets? I turned to her, seeing the uncertainty in her eyes. Never. This is insane, probably dangerous, and definitely not what I planned for my life. But I wouldn't change it. Even the poison dart. Especially the poison dart. It brought me to you. She leaned against me, and I put my arm around her. Through our bond, I felt her contentment, her hope for the future. There's still so much to do, she said. The Council won't give up easily, and there are other threats, other factions that will try to take advantage of the chaos. Then we'll face them together. Together, she agreed. A shooting star streaked across the void, and I made a wish. Not for safety or peace or even happiness, just for the strength to protect the people I cared about. Lena, who was finally getting the treatment she deserved. Serenia, who'd given me purpose beyond mere survival. Even Rax, who'd become a friend when I needed one most. What are you thinking about? Serenia asked. The future. And what do you see? I thought about it. Adventure, danger, probably more poison darts. That's a terrible future. But also family, love, a chance to make a difference. That's better. And you, I added. I see you in my future. She turned in my arms, looking up at me with those impossible violet eyes. For how long? How long does a quantum bond last? Forever, theoretically. Then that's your answer. The coronation was scheduled for 3 days later. 3 days that passed in a whirlwind of preparations, political maneuvering, and assassination attempts. Yes, plural. The first one came during a formal dinner with the royal houses. A servant who wasn't really a servant tried to slip something into Serenia's drink. I felt it through our bond, a wrongness that made my skin crawl. The would-be assassin didn't make it out of the room alive. Rax saw to that. The second was more subtle. A virus in the station's life support systems, designed to release a targeted neurotoxin. The same crystalline healers who'd been treating me detected it, their sensitivity to biological anomalies saving us all. The third was the one that almost worked. I was in my quarters, getting fitted for ceremonial armor that felt ridiculous, but was apparently necessary. When I felt Serenia's distress through our bond, not pain, but something worse. Confusion, doubt, her thoughts becoming foggy. I ran, leaving the bewildered tailors behind. The bond guided me through the station's maze-like corridors to a meditation chamber where Serenia often went to prepare for the coronation. She was there, along with someone I didn't recognize, a Stellarian woman with silver hair and kind eyes. "Marcus," Serenia said, but her voice was wrong, flat. "This is Counselor Thyma. She's been helping me understand my responsibilities." Every instinct I had screamed danger. But there was nothing obviously wrong. No weapons, no threatening movements. Just two women having a conversation. "Your Highness," Thyma said, bowing slightly. "The future Empress was just telling me about your bond. Fascinating. But surely you understand that such connections can be limiting for a ruler." "Limiting how?" I asked, moving closer to Serenia. "An Empress must think of all her subjects, not just one. The Bond Cloud's judgment creates bias. For the good of the Empire, it should be severed." "That's not possible," Serenia said. But there was uncertainty in her voice that hadn't been there before. "Oh, but it is." Thyma produced a small device, crystalline and beautiful. "This will painlessly disconnect the quantum entanglement. You'll both be free to pursue your destinies without constraint." Serenia reached for it, and I grabbed her wrist. "Don't." "Marcus," she said. And now there was irritation in her voice. "You're overreacting. Counselor Thyma has been serving the royal family for decades." "Has she? Then why have I never heard of her? Why isn't she in any of the files I've been studying?" Thyma's kind expression didn't waver. "I prefer to work behind the scenes. But if you need verification..." She pulled out a holopad showing official credentials, complete with royal seals. Everything looked legitimate. But the feeling of wrongness through the bond was getting stronger. "Serenia," I said, focusing on our connection, pushing my thoughts and feelings through it. "Remember the desert. Remember what we survived together. This isn't you." "Of course it's me," she snapped. "I'm thinking clearly for the first time since this whole mess started. The bond was an accident. Marcus, a quirk of quantum mechanics. It doesn't mean anything." Those words hurt more than any physical wound. But I could feel, underneath the surface thoughts, the real Serenia fighting against whatever was influencing her. "You're right," I said, and both women looked surprised. "It was an accident. I was just some nobody in a bar who made an impulsive decision. But what came after wasn't an accident. Every choice we made, every risk we took for each other, that was real." I stepped closer to Serenia, ignoring Thyma's tension. "You saved me when you could have let me die. You shared my pain when you could have stayed safe. You kissed me when you could have kept things professional. None of that was the bond. That was you." "Pretty words," Thyma said, her kind mask slipping slightly. "But words won't change what needs to happen. The Reformed Council may be fallen, but their ideas had merit. The Empire needs a strong, unencumbered ruler." "Your council," I realized. "I'm a patriot, someone who sees the bigger picture." She pressed something on the device, and Serenia gasped. "The princess will see reason, or the device will ensure she does." It was another neural manipulator, more subtle than Webb's, but just as insidious. It wasn't controlling Serenia directly, just influencing her thoughts, making certain ideas seem more reasonable. "Fight it," I told Serenia, grabbing her shoulders. "You're stronger than this." I don't." She was struggling, caught between the device's influence and her own will. Thyma pulled out a weapon, a sleek energy pistol. "Step away from her. The process is delicate." "No. Then you'll die, and she'll be free anyway. The bond breaks with death." "Does it?" I did something desperate. I opened our bond completely. No barriers, no protection. Everything I was, every memory, every feeling, flooded into Serenia, and everything she was flooded into me. For a moment, we weren't two people. We were one consciousness in two bodies, experiencing existence from both perspectives simultaneously. I felt her confusion, the artificial thoughts the device was creating, but also her core self, bright and strong underneath. And she felt my certainty, my love, my absolute refusal to let her go. The device in Thyma's hand shattered. "Impossible!" she breathed. "No," Serenia said, her voice her own again. "Just the power of choice." Thyma raised the pistol. But Rax was already there. Forearms are really useful for disarming someone quickly and efficiently. The would-be manipulator was unconscious before she hit the floor. "How did you know to come?" I asked him. "You left your fitting half-dressed and ran through the station like your ass was on fire. I figured something was wrong." Serenia leaned against me, shaking. "She's been in my head for days. Subtle suggestions, little doubts. I didn't even notice." "The council's not done," I said. "Even with Webb arrested, they're still trying to stop the coronation." "Then we need to accelerate our timeline," Aurelius said, entering the chamber with a contingent of guards. "The coronation happens tonight." "That's in 6 hours," Serenia protested. 6 hours they won't expect. We've caught 3 more infiltrators in the last hour. They're planning something big for the original ceremony. "What kind of something?" I asked. "The kind that involves the word antimatter and chain reaction." "They'd destroy the entire station." Serenia was horrified. "To prevent a strong ruler from reuniting the empire." "Yes." Aurelius looked grim. "We need to move. Now." The next 6 hours were controlled chaos. The coronation traditionally took 3 days of ceremonies. We had to compress that into an afternoon. But there was one problem nobody had anticipated. "What do you mean? I need a title?" I asked, staring at the master of ceremonies like he'd grown a second head. "The bonded guardian of an empress cannot be a commoner. It's unprecedented. You must be elevated to at least the rank of lord." "I don't want to be a lord." "It's not about what you want," Serenia said, though she looked amused. "It's about tradition and politics. The nobles won't accept you otherwise." "Can't we skip it and give our enemies ammunition to question the legitimacy of my rule?" "No." Which is how I found myself kneeling in front of Aurelius, wearing armor that weighed a ton, accepting a title I didn't want for a position I'd never asked for. "Rise, Lord Marcus Hale, defender of the crown, guardian of the Empress, hero of the Theta 9 incident." "Theta 9 incident," I whispered to Rax. "The desert planet. They needed to call it something official." The coronation itself was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Hundreds of representatives from dozens of worlds, all watching as Serenia took the crystal crown. The moment it touched her head, something changed. I felt it through our bond, power, ancient and vast, flowing through her. "The crown is more than ceremonial," she'd explained earlier. "It's a neural interface with the station itself, with every royal ship, with defensive systems dating back millennia. It's why the empire has lasted so long. The ruler doesn't just command, they become part of the infrastructure." Now I understood what that meant. Through our bond, I could feel her consciousness expanding, touching systems throughout the station. It was overwhelming, and I found myself serving as an anchor, keeping her grounded in her own identity, while she adapted to the flow of information. That's when everything went wrong. The lights flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red, and every screen in the coronation hall displayed the same message. "The old ways die tonight." "They're making their move," Aurelius said, his calm voice belied by the tension in his shoulders. "Shields are down," someone reported. "Weapon systems offline. We're defenseless." Through the massive windows of the hall, we could see ships emerging from hyperspace. Not council vessels. Something worse. Black ships with no markings. Angular and wrong, in a way that hurt to look at. "Shadowfleet," Aurelius breathed. "They actually did it." "What's Shadowfleet?" I asked. "A legend," Serenia said, her voice distant as she fought to regain control of the station's systems. "Ships built in secret by extremist factions, designed for one purpose: regicide." "How many 12, each one capable of destroying a moon. And we have no defenses. Not conventional ones. She turned to me, and I saw desperation in her eyes. Marcus, I need you to do something insane. My specialty. The crown connects me to the station, but something is blocking me. A virus, incredibly sophisticated. But you're immune to neural manipulation now. The toxin made sure of that. What are you asking? Join with me. Fully. Let me channel the crown's power through our bond, through your immunity. Together, we might be able to break through. Might. Or it could kill us both. I looked at the approaching ships, at the panicking crowd, at Aurelius organizing desperate defenses that wouldn't be enough. Do it! She took my hands, and the crystal crown flared with light. Power surged through our bond, but not like before. This was raw energy, the accumulated knowledge and authority of 3,000 years of empire. It should have burned me to ash. But the toxin, that horrible poison that had nearly killed me, welcomed it, adapted to it, made it part of me. Together, Serenia and I dove into the station systems. We found the virus immediately, a thing of beautiful malevolence, rewriting code faster than any normal system could counter. But we weren't normal. We were something new. I attacked the virus with human stubbornness and pattern recognition. Serenia countered with Stellarian logic and systematic precision. Where it adapted to one approach, the other was already moving. We fought it through millions of lines of code, through quantum processors, through systems I couldn't even name. And we were losing. The virus was too well designed, too perfectly crafted. Every victory was temporary. Every gain immediately countered. The Shadow Fleet was charging weapons. We need more, Serenia said, her mental voice strained. We don't have more. Yes, we do. She pulled something from deep within the station's archives. Ancient code, older than the Empire itself. The builders of Theta 9. Their guardian responded to me. Their technology is still here, dormant in the oldest parts of the station. You want to wake it up. I want to give it purpose. She spoke in that same ancient language she'd used on the desert planet. But now I understood it. Not the words, but the meaning, filtered through our bond. She was offering an alliance, a merger of technologies. The station responded. Deep in its core, systems that had been dormant for millennia came online. The virus encountered something it hadn't been programmed to handle, technology that predated its every assumption. Ancient defenses that operated on principles humanity and the Stellarians had never discovered. The virus didn't just fail. It was consumed, analyzed, repurposed. Within seconds, we had control again. Now, Serenia commanded, and every weapon on the station fired at once. But the Shadow Fleet had expected that. Their shields held, barely straining. They're too strong, someone shouted. No, I said, feeling something through the ancient systems. They're not the only ones with secrets. I reached out through the network, finding connections I shouldn't have been able to access. The Shadow Fleet's ships were marvels of engineering, but they were also new, untested in real combat, and their pilots were overconfident. Serenia, remember the worms, how they hunted? By vibration. Marcus, that's insane. Insane is my specialty, remember? Together, we sent a pulse through the station's hull. Not a weapon, just a vibration at exactly the right frequency. The same frequency the worms of Theta 9 used to communicate. The Shadow Fleet pilots, focused on their attack, didn't notice the readings until it was too late. Space around the station rippled, and sandworms emerged from hyperspace. Not one or two, but dozens. The ancient systems had called them, offered them prey. That's impossible, Aurelius said. Worms can't survive in space. Normal worms can't, I agreed. But these have been feeding on the energy of that ancient guardian for who knows how long. They've evolved. The worms, each one the size of a frigate, tore into the Shadow Fleet with horrifying efficiency. Ships designed to withstand energy weapons and kinetic strikes had no defense against creatures that ate through their hulls like paper. Within minutes, the fearsome Shadow Fleet was reduced to drifting wreckage and very confused space worms. "Send them home," Serenia commanded through the ancient systems, and the worms vanished back into hyperspace, returning to their desert. The coronation hall erupted in chaos, some cheering, some terrified, all amazed. But I was focused on Serenia, who was swaying on her feet. "Hey," I caught her as she started to fall. "I've got you." "That was impossible," she murmured. "We did something impossible." "Together," I reminded her. "We're good at impossible." She smiled, then pulled me down for a kiss that was definitely not part of the coronation ceremony. The crowd's reaction was mixed, but I didn't care. When we broke apart, Aurelius was there, looking bemused. That was certainly unconventional. "It worked," Serenia said, straightening her crown. "Indeed, but we have another problem." "Of course we did." "The virus wasn't just in our systems," he explained. "It transmitted data about our defenses, our capabilities, everything, to an unknown location. The real enemy," I realized. "The Shadow Fleet was just a test." "A test we passed," Serenia said firmly. "Let them come. We have something they don't expect." "What's that?" She gestured to the crowd, where humans and Stellarians and a dozen other species were working together, united by what they'd just witnessed. "We have unity. The Council tried to divide us, to make us fear each other. But look what we can do together." Over the next hours, as teams worked to repair the damage and analyze the virus, I found myself in a quiet moment with Serenia. We stood in her new Imperial chambers, looking out at the stars. "This isn't over," she said. "No, but we won a big victory today. We revealed our capabilities, the ancient systems, the worm connection, our bond. They'll be ready next time. Then we'll be readier." She turned to me, violet eyes serious. "Marcus, I need to ask you something. Not as Empress, but as Serenia." "Anything. Stay with me. Not just as my guardian, but as more." "You mean?" "I mean I'm in love with you, you impossible human. I have been since you threw yourself in front of that dart. Maybe before, in whatever cosmic joke brought you to that bar at that moment." My heart did something complicated in my chest. "Serenia, I know it's complicated. Different species, different worlds, the whole guardian bond thing. But we've already done 6 impossible things today. What's one more?" I pulled her close, feeling our bond hum with contentment. "I love you too. Have since you shared my pain in the desert. Maybe before, in whatever cosmic joke made me the right kind of stupid to catch poison darts." She laughed, that silver bell sound I was growing addicted to. "So you'll stay?" "Forever. Remember, that's how long quantum bonds last." "That's the science. I'm asking about the choice." "Forever," I repeated. "By choice." We kissed again, and this time there was no crowd, no ceremony, no crisis. Just us. A comm unit chimed. Rax's voice. "Sorry to interrupt, but we've decoded part of the virus's transmission." And Serenia asked, "You need to see this." We made our way to the command center, where Rax and Aurelius were staring at a star map. "The transmission went here." Rax pointed to a section of space that should have been empty. "There's nothing there," I said. "According to our charts, no. But the ancient systems say otherwise." Aurelius pulled up a different display, overlaying ancient Stellarian records. A star appeared, red and dying, surrounded by a debris field. "The lost system," Serenia breathed. "It's real." "What's the lost system?" I asked. "The origin point of the Stellarian Empire, our homeworld, before we became spacefaring. It was supposedly destroyed in a war 3,000 years ago." "Supposedly?" "According to the data, it's very much intact, hidden, cloaked by technology we don't understand, but intact." And that's where our enemy is. That's where something is. Something that's been watching, waiting, planning for 3 millennia. I looked at the star map, at the impossible system that shouldn't exist. Well, at least our honeymoon won't be boring. Honeymoon, Serenia raised an eyebrow. Figure of speech, unless... Survive whatever's waiting in that system, and we'll discuss it.
Deal!
Aurelius cleared his throat. If you two are done planning your future, we have a mysterious enemy to investigate. Right, Serenia straightened. Every inch the Empress. Send word to the fleet. We leave in 3 days. The entire fleet, Aurelius looked concerned. Everything we can spare. If someone has been hiding in the lost system for 3,000 years, they're not going to welcome visitors. As preparations began, I found myself alone with my thoughts for the first time in days. So much had changed. I'd gone from a nobody cargo hauler to Lord Guardian of the Stellarian Empire, from dying of poison to being immune to neural manipulation, from alone except for Lena to bonded with an alien empress. A message came through on my personal comm, a video from Lena. Marcus, I saw the coronation broadcast. You kissed the Empress on live feed to the entire galaxy. Also, you fought off space worms. How is that even possible? The doctors here are amazed. They say the medical data from your toxin adaptation could revolutionize treatment for dozens of conditions. You're not just a hero. You're a medical miracle. I'm so proud of you, big brother. Can't wait to see you again. Love you. I smiled, sending back a quick message promising to visit soon. Then another thought occurred to me. Serenia. She looked up from the tactical display she was studying. Yes, my sister. She's safe on Mars. But if enemies know about our bond, about me, already handled. She's being moved to a secure facility on the station. Best medical care. Absolute protection. She'll be here by tomorrow. You didn't have to... She's your family. That makes her mine. She paused. If that's acceptable... More than acceptable. The next 3 days passed quickly. Ships arrived from across the Empire, forming the largest fleet assembled in generations. The story of the coronation attack had spread, turning what might have been a divisive moment into a rallying cry. I spent the time training with Rax, learning to fight with the enhanced reflexes the toxin had given me, studying with Aurelius, understanding the political landscape I'd been thrown into, and every moment I could steal with Serenia, learning each other beyond the crisis that had brought us together. The night before we left for the lost system, I found her in the observation deck where we'd first kissed. Scared, I asked. Terrified. We could be heading into a trap. The entire fleet could be destroyed. But we have to know. Whatever's been hiding there, whatever's been manipulating events, we need to face it. Together. Together. She took my hand, our bond humming with shared determination. Marcus, if something happens... It won't! But if it does, I want you to know that catching that dart wasn't what saved me. You did. Every choice you made after. You saved me from becoming just another puppet ruler. You made me remember what it means to fight for something beyond survival. You saved me too. Gave me purpose beyond just existing day to day. Showed me that some things are worth the risk. We stood there, two people who shouldn't exist, bonded by poison and choice, looking out at stars that held unknown dangers. Whatever happens tomorrow, Serenia said, I'm glad it's with you. Forever, remember. Forever. The fleet departed at dawn, station time. Hundreds of ships, carrying thousands of beings, all heading toward a ghost from the past. As we entered hyperspace, I felt the weight of what we were doing. This wasn't just about us anymore. It was about the future of the Empire, maybe the galaxy. But I also felt ready. The toxin that should have killed me had made me stronger. The bond that should have trapped me had set me free. The princess I'd saved had saved me right back. Jump complete, the navigator announced. Entering the lost system in 3, 2, 1. We emerged from hyperspace, and every alarm on every ship went off at once. The lost system wasn't empty. It was full of ships, thousands of them, all identical, all impossibly advanced. And at their center, a station that dwarfed even the celestial court. "Welcome!" A voice transmitted to every ship simultaneously. It was familiar, terrifyingly familiar. "Webb," I gasped. Not Webb. Never Webb. He was just a useful puppet, like so many others. The voice shifted, became something older, colder. "I am the architect. I am the one who has guided your species from the shadows for 3 millennia. And you, little Empress and her pet human, have just delivered exactly what I needed." "What do you mean?" Serenia demanded. "The crown, the ancient codes, the bond between species that shouldn't be possible. You've activated systems I've been trying to access for centuries. And now, thanks to your heroic arrival, I can finally take what was always mine." The station began to change, unfolding like some massive mechanical flower. At its heart, something that made my brain hurt to perceive. "Is that," Serenia started. "The original crown. The true crown. The one your ancestors stole when they fled this system. You're Stellarian. I am what the Stellarians were before they became weak, before they diluted themselves with mercy and compassion. I am pure purpose, preserved for 3,000 years, waiting for this moment." "You're insane." "I am evolved, and soon, thanks to your quantum bond, I will be omnipotent." The view screen flickered, and we saw him. Or it. The architect had once been Stellarian, but 3,000 years of self-modification had turned him into something else. His body was a fusion of organic tissue and ancient technology, cables running through translucent skin, eyes replaced with crystalline sensors that saw in spectrums we couldn't imagine. "You're an abomination," Aurelius said, his voice filled with horror. "I am perfection," the architect replied. "I have transcended the limitations of flesh, of mortality, of conscience, and now I will transcend the final barrier." The original crown began to pulse with dark energy, and I felt something tugging at our bond, not breaking it, but trying to access it, to use it as a bridge. "He's trying to connect to us," Serenia gasped, her hand finding mine. "The quantum entanglement between you is unique," the architect explained, his voice coming from every speaker on every ship. "A human and a Stellarian, bonded at the deepest level, enhanced by neural toxins and ancient protocols. You are the key I've been waiting for. Through you, I can merge with the original crown and control not just the Empire, but every quantum-connected system in the galaxy." "That's impossible," I said, though I was starting to realize that word had lost all meaning in my life. "Is it you summoned creatures through space? You defeated my shadow fleet with a vibration. You merged human stubbornness with Stellarian logic to overcome my virus. You've already proven that the impossible is merely improbable." The tugging on our bond grew stronger. Serenia's crown began to resonate with its ancient predecessor, and I felt her struggling to maintain control. "Fight it," I said, pouring my strength through our connection. "I'm trying, but it's so strong. It knows every backdoor, every weakness in the system." "Then we don't fight it," I said, an insane idea forming. "We give it exactly what it wants." "Marcus, no." "Trust me." I looked at Rax, who was standing ready at the weapons console. "When I give the signal, fire everything at the station's core." "That won't penetrate their shields," he protested. "It won't need to. Just be ready." I turned to Serenia, taking both her hands. Through our bond, I shared my plan. Her eyes widened. "That's suicide." "That's Tuesday," I corrected. "We've done impossible things before. This is just one more." She searched my face, then nodded. "Together. Always." We opened our bond completely. Not just to each other, but to the architect's probing. He surged in immediately, his consciousness flooding through our connection toward the crown. But we were ready. The moment he entered our shared space, we sprung the trap. The toxin in my system, dormant but still present, recognized an invader. It activated with a vengeance, not attacking us but the foreign presence. Meanwhile, Serenia used the crown's connection to flood the architect's systems with something he hadn't encountered in 3 millennia. Emotion, love, fear, hope, despair, joy, sorrow, all of it pouring through the quantum channels he'd forced open. The architect, who'd spent 3,000 years purging himself of feeling, was suddenly drowning in it. "What are you doing?" he screamed, his perfect control shattered. "Reminding you what you gave up," Serenia said. Through the connection, I could feel his memories surfacing. He'd been a scientist once, before the transformation. He'd had a family, friends, a life beyond his obsession with perfection. He'd loved someone, lost them in the war that destroyed the original homeworld, and in his grief, had decided that emotion was weakness. "No," he gasped, his 1,000 ships wavering in their formation. "I am beyond this. I am evolved." "You're alone," I said. "You've been alone for 3,000 years, telling yourself it was strength, but it was just fear." The original crown's dark energy fluctuated, its color shifting from black to deep purple to something almost like normal light. The architect's control was slipping. "Now," I told Rax. Every ship in our fleet fired simultaneously, but not at the station, at the space around it, creating a resonance pattern I'd learned from the ancient systems. The same pattern that had called the worms, but inverted. Instead of calling creatures, it called memories. The lost system had been destroyed by war, but space remembers. Every death, every destroyed ship, every moment of that ancient catastrophe had left quantum impressions in the fabric of space-time. Our weapons weren't destroying anything. They were awakening ghosts. Thousands of phantom ships appeared, shadows of the past, made temporarily real by the resonance. And every one of them remembered the architect, remembered what he'd done. "You caused the war," Serenia gasped, seeing the truth through our connection to him. "You were experimenting with forced evolution, trying to create perfect beings. When the government tried to stop you, you released a virus that drove half the population insane." "They were inferior," the architect said, but his voice was breaking. "They needed to be improved." "They were people," I said. "And they died because of your arrogance." The phantom ships closed in on the station, not attacking but surrounding it, bearing witness. Through our bond, the architect was forced to feel every death, every loss, every consequence of his actions. "Make it stop," he pleaded, the perfect being reduced to begging. "You make it stop," Serenia commanded. "Release your ships. Shut down the original crown. End this." "I can't. The systems are autonomous. 3,000 years of programming. They won't stop until the mission is complete." "Then change the mission," I suggested. "To what?" "I thought about Webb, about the Kepler station disaster, about all the pain caused by those who thought they knew better. Redemption. That's not a mission, that's a concept." "Then make it real. You have 3,000 years of knowledge, technology beyond our understanding. Use it to heal instead of control. Fix what you broke." "It's too late. The damage is done." "It's never too late," Serenia said, and there was compassion in her voice that surprised even me. "My parents are dead. My brothers are lost. Your war destroyed entire worlds. We can't change that, but we can choose what happens next." The architect was silent for a long moment. Through our connection, I could feel him struggling. The perfect logic he'd built his existence on, warring with the emotions we'd forced him to feel again. "I don't remember how to choose," he finally admitted. "Then we'll show you," I said. It was risky, potentially fatal. But we'd come too far to stop now. Serenia and I, still connected to the architect, shared our memories of choice. Every decision that had brought us here, from catching the dart to kissing on the observation deck. We showed him that choice wasn't about perfection, but about connection, about caring enough to try even when success was uncertain. The original crown's energy shifted again, becoming something almost warm. The architect's 1,000 ships began to power down their weapons. "I remember her name," he whispered. "Lyra. Her name was Lyra. She loved to sing." "What happened to her?" Serenia asked gently. "She died in the first wave of the virus. The one I created. She died cursing my name." "Then honor her memory," I said. "Become someone she wouldn't curse." The station began to change, its weapon systems retracting, its hostile architecture softening. The architect himself was changing too. The ancient technology integrated into his body, shifting from tools of control to something else. "The original crown," he said, his voice different now, more human despite the millennia. "It was never meant for domination. It was created to unite, to share consciousness and understanding between species. I corrupted it, turned it into a tool of control." "Then uncorrupt it," Serenia challenged. He laughed, a sound like broken glass. "You make it sound simple." "Simple? No. Necessary, yes." The phantom ships began to fade, their purpose served. But before they vanished completely, they did something unexpected. They saluted, 1,000 ghost ships acknowledging the possibility of redemption. The architect severed his connection to us, gently this time, leaving our bond intact but private again. On the view screen, we could see him clearly now, still transformed, still inhuman, but something in his crystalline eyes had changed. "I cannot undo what I've done," he said. "But I can try to balance the scales. The technology I've developed, the medical advances, the quantum understanding. I'll share it freely. No control, no conditions." "That's not enough," Aurelius said sternly. "No, it's not. Which is why I'm also giving you this." The original crown detached from the station, floating free in space. The true crown, uncorrupted. It can heal the neural damage caused by my weapons, cure diseases that have plagued the galaxy for centuries, even reverse the kind of forced evolution I inflicted on myself, should anyone choose that path. "And what about you?" Serenia asked. "I have 3,000 years of sins to atone for. I think I'll start by finding the descendants of those I wronged and seeing what can be made right." He paused. "Starting with the Kepler station survivors." My heart jumped. "You can cure the neural degradation